you can manifest anything. You can achieve anything. I mean, that's why we have dreams, and they're much more attainable than you think. If there's something that you really want to do and you put your mind to it through consistency and patience and your work ethic, it will happen. And I think this book is a testament to that, because I went to this trip not knowing I was even going to write at all. And I came back and now have a book on Amazon.
Purpose in the Youth. Purpose in the Youth podcast. Welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Today in the house, fellow bearded brother, Jordan Tarver. What up, bro?
What's up, man? Not quite at your level yet.
No, but it's something. I always have to acknowledge when I have guests coming in with fellow beards, because you already get plus 2 points in my world. You know what I mean?
I'll never reach your style.
No. As long as you understand that, that's all that matters. Jordan, writer, photographer, storyteller, van life. Owner? Is that how you'd say
Van lifer?
Van lifer.
Van lifer.
What excites you the most about the life you're living today?
Every day is different, man.
Yeah.
Literally every day is different. And my day is pretty much up to my liking, which is nice about being a writer. Is I kind of can form my own schedule, which opens up a lot of time to do these van trips or another kind of creative project.
Yeah. Do you find that you're kind of in the same schedule every day, even though you are in control of your day-to-day? Like, have you found kind of a rhythm that, I like writing in the morning, I like working out in the afternoon? Have you found like that rhythm?
Yeah, I think routine is important for sure.
Yeah.
So I've definitely come up with that formula that really works for me, kind of like you come up with your podcast formula.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm up at 5 a.m. every day.
Wow.
Getting the morning started right. But my brain's on like 90% of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of those guys that has to be doing creative work at just after 10 p.m. or just before 10 a.m. I kind of work like throughout the whole day, kind of see what feels right.
Yeah.
But I shut off like pretty early. I mean, like I'm not working past 9 p.m. on anything.
You're just, nope.
I'm done, man.
I'm time to relax.
I know,
Jordan time.
I know I'm up early. I got to be done early.
What's that morning routine look like?
In the gym, working out.
First thing,
wake
Let's
up.
Go. Same thing, baby.
Yeah, man. It's important. I mean, not only to stay fit and healthy, but for your mental game.
Yes.
Stress reliever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in the gym for an hour, come home. First thing I do when I get home is make my bed. Very important. I think it's overlooked by quite
you can't see it.
Yeah.
Or you didn't see it this morning, but it's the first thing I do every morning.
You got to. It's the first thing you can do that you achieve in your day.
Yeah.
So start off by making my bed, and then I'm journaling every day. Do a bit of gratitude journaling, which I think is important as well, just to remind yourself of what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
To the smallest things like my coffee mug or to coming into the podcast today. And then I'm meditating for 15 minutes. And then from there, kind of just roll into work, whatever's on my plate for the morning.
So you really prime yourself for the day by doing that. The gym, setting the bed, the gratitude journal, like that's
100%.
You're priming yourself for the day.
Dude, you got to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
Yeah. I went through for a while, for a long time, I went through this whole process of kind of changing the morning routine. And I laugh now looking back, because there was a time when I thought the best thing I could do is wake up and immediately start working. And so I was finding myself by 10, I'd get up early, start working by 6:30, 6:45. And I'd find myself by 10:30 in the morning, just mentally drained.
Just
like
exhausted,
I checked things off the box, but I was just so down on the day, because I had just woke up, literally would get to my desk. This is when I was living in Boston. And I would just start working. And then I don't know if it was through podcasts or listening to other people, where they just kind of push this whole idea of you make the morning about you. And then I started realizing, okay, I'm going to start working out, and I'm going to meditate. And then I literally make the bed first thing when I roll out of bed. And I am such a I'm just so much more ready for the day. So by the time we sit down now at 11, I'm in the zone. I've had a cup of coffee. I've already got my mental health in check, physical health in check. And it's so important to just, when you find that morning routine, just it primes you. And I'm sure, as 100%. You said,
yeah. I mean, I think one thing I've realized with formulating a morning routine and actually a night routine, kind of giving yourself that me time or you time, if you will.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it seem like you work your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, and it gives you purpose at other hours of the day rather than waking up and jumping right into whatever your work is. It just gives your day more purpose. And that way your whole day isn't spent working. So you get, I get like 2-3 hours in the morning to myself before I have to do my first task.
Yeah.
And then at night I set aside from like 7 p.m. or after dinner, whatever time that is for you, until I go to bed. That's, again, me time. So that's, 6 to 7 hours a day where I'm deciding exactly what I want to do without the, need for doing work.
Is there any, like a nighttime ritual? I know you have the morning down. Is there anything before you go to sleep at night that is a must for you?
I've been just reading a ton, just like bookworm, man.
Yeah.
So that's just one good way to wind down and, get off the phone and, spend some quiet time.
Yeah.
Slow down the day a bit after, as a writer, my brain is constantly running, man. It's like, one joke we make at work is, it's like you're either writing, or if you're not writing, you're thinking about writing.
Yeah.
So like the whole time my brain is just like, firing on all cylinders of like, I'm writing this content, or I'm like, shit, I should be writing this content. It's just like, so reading is one good way, just to kind of calm everything down a bit and just,
you're consuming the content versus you're producing the content, right? So I'm sure your mind is a lot more at ease of just reading the words versus it's like, I need to get these words on the paper and get it out there. Oh man, that's amazing. We're going to get into a lot of good topics in the writing, the photography, the storytelling in a little bit, but I want to paint that picture of kind of where you're coming from. Like the young Jordan at Rohnert Park, California. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Rohnert Park.
What's this place like? How does this shape you into who you are today?
It's so now many people know Rohnert Park is in Northern California, Sonoma County to be exact, which is about just north of San Francisco by an hour. Small town, 40,000 people, so very different to where I live now in West Hollywood.
Much different.
Which is a testament to my own personality, because I am a completely different person than I was in my early life, we'll put it that way. But Rohnert Park was a great starting point. I got 2 brothers and a sister. My parents still live up there, so I visit often. But my family, my parents put us through a Montessori school, which is a different kind of education system based around science and arts. So a lot of my time in Rohnert Park was spent actually in Petaluma, which is kind of like my stomping grounds. But the reason I bring up that schooling is because I really think I attribute a lot of my creative thinking and attitude toward that learning. It's really hands-on, learning at your own pace kind of stuff. And even to this day with my siblings, we talk about it all the time, that education system really set us up for our current careers.
Yeah, so were they teaching you guys, but also always making sure there was a creative way of learning? Was that kind of...
Yeah, it was really hands-on, as in like when we learned math, there was actually like wood things that we moved and like learned how to divide rather than writing it on paper. I didn't receive any grades until I was in 7th grade.
Wow.
So nothing was graded. I know it's probably kind of far out for some people and it's a little different. You're like, what the fuck? No grades?
Yeah.
But I mean, I was a really good student in middle school, high school, and college. So that obviously having no grades wasn't a bad part. It was just a different way of teaching us from ages like 4 to 12.
It's probably important too. You're not getting all worried about that number. You're just focusing on learning.
I honestly didn't even know about grades until I was like 12.
Wow. You're like, grades? What is this?
I mean, that's a huge, although that wasn't in Rohnert Park, like when I think back to Rohnert Park, in my childhood, the first thing that comes to my mind is the schooling we did.
It's funny how as you get older, I think you start to appreciate the certain small things in your childhood, so that when you get asked about where you grew up, and tell me about it, you're thinking about those positive things that you took for granted or just kind of overlooked. And now looking back,
Right.
especially living in West Hollywood and seeing the size of LA, or, you know, as much traveling as you have done, you're starting to appreciate that town or that city because of all the things that it gave you, and just you didn't realize at the time how important those were.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, this is cliche, but I think cliches are important.
I think cliches are the truths. It's just
Right,
you hear it
and
so many times
and
that
this,
people overlook it.
right, and you don't know what you have until it's gone. And so when I lived in Rohnert Park until I was 18, I moved out for college. That place wasn't my favorite, right? I just didn't like it. There's not much to do in Rohnert Park. There's nothing to do for high school students. But when I left and I was living on my own outside of my parents' house, and then I went to Europe, I was coming to these realizations as I was getting older. I was like, wow, there's like a lot of quality stuff back there.
Yeah.
You know, I just needed to be extracted from that atmosphere and environment for a while to realize really what it was holding.
Yeah. I had read that growing up, your fathers and your uncles were big with adventured vans.
Oh yeah, man.
How early did you start to get the itch to travel with them?
Well, so my dad and I mean, he has several siblings, but one of his siblings, my uncle David, he was kind of the guy that instilled the van life into me. He always drove, you know, the 1980s VW Westphalias. I would always want to see him when you come over for holidays. I'd be like, yo, let's go check out your van. Like, come on.
Van life.
I always just had this excitement for the outdoors. My dad never had one when I when I was home, but he had one when he was in his 20s, which he then sold to my uncle, and that's how my uncle got started. But really, the whole outdoor lifestyle and passion for me, my parents would take us camping every summer, and so that's kind of where it started from. But when we would go camping, is my dad would always be packing the car outside, and you know, as a young kid and wanting to be with my dad, I would want to help pack the car. And so I would ask him, and of course he'd say no, like this is my job.
This is my job.
Yeah, right. And I'd pout, and I'd be like, all right, whatever. And then I would sit off to the side, and over time, what I realize now, looking back at it, and I'm a very observant person.
Yeah.
What I was doing is I was actually observing how he was packing the car. And so learning from his Tetris-like ways, like that got me stoked on the whole, not just the trip, but the packing, like the pre-trip and the post-trip. And I think it's just really cool because now I look back on it and I'm like, damn, like I do this exactly what he was doing now. And it's just like, that's like where it all like started
from. Yeah, because now with you owning your own van, you know exactly how to make use of the space that you have. You know the things you definitely need, things you don't need, and probably you've learned how to pack light and minimally. And things that you don't, if you don't need it, get it out of the van.
Right, and but beyond just packing, it's like that's like where the stoke really started. Like it started when I was 6 or 7, and I think that just goes to show that it doesn't matter how you start, but it matters that you start.
Yeah.
And for me, I started by watching my dad pack the car.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It started from the packing of the car.
Yeah.
Now we're here.
Yeah. That's how it all got started. And it just stuck with me ever since. And I got a crazy itch for the outdoors. I got a crazy itch for camping. I mean, especially with my photography work and my personal writing, like that stuff just motivates me to go see more. And I think the van itself is my like writer's cabin or my photographer's cabin, where that gets me on the road because I know I can get places now with the rig like that.
Yeah. I had also saw that as a kid, or at least in your youth, you spent 6 years as a camp counselor at Santa Rosa Recreational Park, working alongside kids. What do you think were some of the skills that you were getting from this job?
Initiative, enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Just being a kind individual. I think that's something I really learned there to take care of people. But yeah, I volunteered. I put in 500 hours at this place.
500 hours.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And then after those 6 years, I then worked there for 3 more as a paid staff member. So I was there for a long time.
Wow.
Also got into working with the special needs community, which, dude, man, that taught me so much shit. Like, it's crazy. And
yeah,
I look back on those moments with the special needs community, and that's some of the most amazing times and things you can do for people. And what it really taught me is really just, care for others.
Yeah.
be kind, be positive,
Yeah.
and just, I don't know, life's fun.
I think you also learn to be more at ease because I had helped out with Special Olympics. I think it was when I was in middle school, and just a greater appreciation for the little
Man.
things in life. And yeah,
Gratitudes, man.
yeah,
100%.
a lot of gratitude. What was the inspiration for going to California State University in Fullerton? You were a finance major.
Finance major. My two older brothers went to San Diego State in Long Beach. And when they were getting ready to go to school, I was, so my oldest brother is 6 years older than me. My other brother is 2 years older than me. So I would go down with them and my mom to move them into their dorms. And so this was like the first college site I ever saw was, what was I, 12, going to San Diego State, moving my brother into his dorm room. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? This is nuts.
Sign me up.
And so, like, for me, moving them into San Diego and Long Beach, I was like, damn, dude, SoCal is the shit. Like,
Yeah.
I come from Rohnert Park, not much to do.
Yeah.
I'm in SoCal down here moving them in, and it's freaking awesome.
Two different worlds for people that have never been to California. Northern to southern, it should be two different states.
It should be.
They should completely
The
be
people,
two
the
different
culture,
states.
everything, man.
Everything.
It's a whole 180. But yeah, I just knew I wanted to live in SoCal. And so I was like, I'm going to apply to every school in Southern California, and whatever one I get into, I'll probably go to it. Come time to choosing the schools, I was deciding between UC Santa Cruz, Chico, and Fullerton, which is two other very different locations when I knew I wanted to go to SoCal.
Southern California.
And I was literally about to choose Chico. And my mom was like, wait a second. You've told me since you were 12 that you want to move to SoCal. Let's go check out Cal State Fullerton.
Because that's near Anaheim, right?
Kind of. Chico?
No, Fullerton.
Right, yeah.
That's east of Anaheim almost.
Yeah.
So for people that are listening, if you don't know where that is on a map, so you have Los Angeles, and then south of that along the coastline is Orange County, Anaheim, and then Fullerton would
Correct.
be right around there.
Yeah. And so my mom was like, let's go check it out. Like, you've been wanting to move there. Like, why aren't we going there, you know? And I was like kind of bummed, just like, because I was ready to just choose a place. And so we went down, and literally the second I stepped foot on campus, I turned to my mom like, this is the place. And I just like, that just goes to show, like, I don't know how your decisions can really change the outcome of your life.
What was it about that though? Stepping onto that campus, like what did you see that pulled you in?
I think I just was reminded that that's where I wanted to live, and like being displaced from Southern California, not around it, like for a couple of years, and maybe I had forgotten that I loved it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, shouts out to my mom for making me go back down there and tour the school, because I wouldn't be here today in the studio. I wouldn't be in the community of creatives I know and community of friends. There's a lot of things I wouldn't be without going to Fullerton, you know?
Yeah. With the school of that size, I would imagine there's probably plenty of opportunity major-wise. You could probably major in a lot of different things. So what was pulling you into finance? Were you somebody that was a big numbers guy? What exactly made you decide finance?
I've always used to say my favorite subject was math. Partially because the way we were taught, and so I learned to love it at the Montessori school. But growing up, I mean, my dad's he's been in sales all his life, and so me and my siblings, we've been around business forever, and that was like, you know, I aspired to be like my dad, and so I always wanted to be like in the business world and, you know, doing the hustle and the grind. But as I got closer to college, I wasn't really sure sales was for me. And I saw a lot of opportunity in finance because of all the numbers, and those were some things that really just made sense in my mind. And Fullerton has a very, very good business school. So I was really drawn into the business school for that reason. But also finance, just because like I was like, I'm good at math. I probably could do this.
Yeah, I can make this work.
Yeah. So
what did that 4 years look like though? Were you somebody that was super involved? Were you?
Yeah. I joined a fraternity.
Yeah.
First semester of school, super involved in my fraternity. I lived in the fraternity house for 2 years. Called the Barn. I don't know if you've heard of it. Anyone's listening, they know the Barn.
The Barn.
It's literally a barn. So we lived in a barn for 2 years. And that was, I mean, I met so many people, and I stay in contact with like 30 close homies, I'd say.
Wow.
And we got a really unique group of friends, I like to say. And there's just a lot of good people, a lot of successful people, and we all are super supportive of each other. And I think that's like one of the biggest things I've taken away from that group of friends is that it still exists.
Wow.
And I graduated 3 years ago almost.
2016, right?
Yeah, so 2.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was it's kind of where like my photography passion started was in that fraternity. So without joining the fraternity, I don't know if I would have picked up a camera.
We got a shouts to mom for getting you down in Southern California. We got shouts out to the fraternity for getting you into photography.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said earlier, your decisions are they're huge, and they're not things you should do carelessly. I mean, they can really divert the way you're going to live.
So how did you get into photography then?
It's funny you ask.
I mean, I got it now. You have to.
It started, me and my buddy used to, when we were living in the house, we used to just take photos of the parties and stuff. And I didn't own a camera at the time. And he did. And I was pretty broke. I wasn't really working for the first couple of years of college, and then kind of picked up a job in my late junior year. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have the money to buy my own. So I would just borrow his camera, and I would just like, yo, dude, let me use your camera. And like run around the house and whatever. We'll take photos. And then, you know, these
are PG-13 photos or PG?
Yeah, something like that. But so that's what got me started. And then I was like, dang, this is fun. And like he's super into the outdoors too. And so we were going on trips, and I was like, damn, like I need to get one of these. Like this is like, I'm vibing hard on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saved up the cash and got my first camera, and then it was game over from there, man. It was just like addiction. Like good addiction.
Yeah. Well, once you pick something up and you start to realize how much fun it is.
It was so much fun. And when we all had our cameras, there was a couple of us, and we would just weekend trips to, you know, beaches down in Orange County or Yosemite, Joshua Tree. I mean, here in Orange County and LA, like there's so much opportunity for exploration, especially in California. I mean, nothing's really that far.
Yeah.
It takes, you know, 8 hours to get to San Francisco, and there's so many places between here and San Francisco that you can go see.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you guys are going to the beach in February. I'm on the East Coast freezing my ass
right,
off because it's so cold and there's snow and we're shoveling out our cars.
I'm never leaving California, man.
I don't blame you. Now that I'm here, I hate to say it, Mom, but I don't think I'm leaving either. So you're graduating college though, right? And is this trip to Europe because it's like a graduation treat? Are you interested in always traveling to Europe because, you know, you move out of your apartment in Newport Beach, you fly to Europe by yourself? What's the motive?
Well, first I wasn't going to go by myself. Let's start with that. Me and my homie were going to go. We had been planning this just kind of like, because I knew I didn't want to get right into work. And my older brother and my older sister had both done their travels after they graduated, and I was like, okay, that's like pretty cool. It seems like the move to do. So, you know, I was planning something with a homie, and maybe like 3-4 months before the trip, right when we were about to buy the tickets, he's like, yo, I just scored this job, and they need me for training in New York during this summer. And I was like, all right, so you can't go, obviously. So then I was like, shit, like this is not me. Like, I mean, if you were to have met me in college in college, I was not super outgoing. I was very quiet and just like, I wasn't very confident in myself, and I wasn't really confident in who I was. I mean, I didn't know who I was yet at all. I was just really uncertain with my own life. And so I started thinking about this trip, and I was like, dang, like this is like, I was pretty nervous to do this thing by myself. And my mom was like, you're going to go by yourself? Like what? Like she was confused. Like it was just like not me for me to do this by myself. And then I started thinking on it more. I was like, I think this is like life, like throwing me a test. Like, do you want to change and grow into that individual you've always meant to be? Or are you going to, you know, sit back and stay stagnant? And so that's when I decided like, it's probably best I just go on my own and not see if anyone else wants to go with me.
And did you do a lot of planning? How long were you in Europe?
Yeah. So the original plan was be in Europe for 5.5 weeks.
Good amount of time solo.
So let's call it a month and a half. Did a fair amount of planning, had my route all planned out, had hostels. I had the Eurail pass, so I was traveling strictly by train, which if anyone's about to travel to Europe, highly recommend traveling by train. You get to see so much more than being in a plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it started as a month and a half trip, and I was traveling around. I pretty much did the entire continent, missing a few countries here and there. And my sister lived at Paris at the time, and she had been there for 2 years. And so when we met up in Paris, we were deciding that we wanted to do a little bit of travel together, and she was looking for a little bit of break. And so we went to Portugal together. In the very most southern tip of Portugal, there's a city called Sagres. If anyone's listening that has been to Portugal, it's about 4 hours south of Lagos by bus. And we stayed in this little surf hostel. Little ragged, just grungy surf hostel.
Yeah.
We'd hitchhike to the beach every day, hitchhike back. We didn't want to hire a car or anything like that. And this was actually at the very end of my trip. So this was at week 5, and I had really connected with some people in Barcelona at the time when I stayed there, and I just wasn't really ready to leave yet. There was nothing that was calling me back at all. I was single at the time. I had quit my job. I had graduated, and I had moved out of my house. So there was literally nothing at home that I needed to return to quite yet. And so I sat down with my sister and talked to her about it. I messaged the manager at this hostel, and there was an opening for a volunteer position. And I was talking to her, and she was just super motivating me about it. And so the day before I left to come home, I decided to forfeit my flight and fly back to Barcelona to work at this hostel for another month and a half.
Wow.
So that took the trip from a 5-week trip to a 3-month trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd the parents feel about you deciding
Stoked.
to stay? Yeah, they were happy
100%.
for you.
They were on board. They were like, same boat as I was in. I mean, there's not any other time I could have done this.
Yeah.
I had no responsibility. I had nothing pulling me back to SoCal, and it was like, if this is what you want, then this is the one time to do it, and you go get it.
Right place at the right time. You have to jump on that opportunity. What do you think was the biggest self-realization you made while there? I know there's a lot, as we'll get into in a little bit, especially with the book, but
I mean, I had a ton. I think really what this trip did for me is again, cliches are fucking awesome.
Yeah, I love them.
Life begins outside your comfort zone, 100%. That's what this trip did for me. It put me outside my comfort zone, and it made me really realize who I was always meant to be. And I learned so much about how important it is to connect with people on a really personal level through positivity. And that's like the biggest thing I took from this, was because when I first got there, I didn't know a single soul. I was isolated, didn't know anyone. And so going into this trip, my mentality was that every person I meet, I need to have some sort of impact on them so they can remember me. And that impact would be coming from being positive.
Was it tough with the language barrier?
Not at all, man. No. Not at all. I mean, everyone speaks English. Everyone speaks English. And it's really, I mean, some areas are more difficult than others. Like Eastern Europe could be more difficult because it's, further away from the West. But no, there's really no issues with the language barrier.
So the 3 months, the party comes to an end. And I'm sure you could probably still remember that day of like, I got to go back home. But you get back, you have no job, you have nowhere to live. You spend 2 months on a buddy's couch, and then you land this job at a mortgage company. I don't want to call the mortgage company's name out, so I won't. But you spend 16 months with this company. So you go from kind of living this 3 months in Europe of just going with the flow, probably life is bliss. Like you said, you have no attachments. You graduated college.
Life was good,
Life
man.
is good. And now you're back in Southern California, the place that you kind of had always wanted to be. But now you're in a corporate environment. You're working a 9 to 5. What does this 16 months look like for you working for this company?
I honestly was just trying to replenish my bank account at the time. I came back no dollars to my name. And so for me, I was just searching for an income. Like, I need to make money. And it's funny because at the time when I was on my trip, I knew this was coming. I knew I was coming home to no money, and I knew like, shit, like I need to make some cash quick. So I had sent my resume to a couple homies back in the States when I was overseas. I'm like, get this so we can process this a little quicker. Like, let's get the process going now because I know I'm going to need this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sent my resume to a homie and he put it through, and that way I could, it still was a 2-month process once I got home until I was employed again. But he got me the job, and I mean, it wasn't what I obviously love to do, but at the time I needed money, and it was just like I was going to take, any opportunity.
And while you're working it, this is when you start to find this passion for writing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the passion really started on the trip, honestly, because every day I was journaling about everything that was going on. And I still remember writing in my journal that I was coming to the realization that writing was becoming my release. And like, that's where, I guess you could say, that's when I decided that like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
So just from journaling your thoughts, this is when you're starting to realize that I need to. Had you always wanted to like kind of have a platform, or I mean, it's interesting because you, as you said before, you're the quiet one. You're not really somebody that's out there throwing their name out there or whatever, but now you're writing and you're starting to have a way to put your feelings out there into the world. Was that, how was that benefiting you?
Yeah, I think I really wanted a way to use my voice, and I hadn't found my voice yet.
Yeah.
And when I found writing, and also photography, because you can still speak emotion through a photo, and those two mediums for me were the way that I could express myself.
So what is the true inspiration behind putting together Moment? The book that we have sitting right here.
Moment.
Moment. Because I had read it also too. It says, well, this is Moment Volume 1, to whom it may concern. But with this new profound appetite for gratitude and positivity, he committed himself to always make an effort to positively impact someone's life. So what did you want? How did you want this book to impact people?
Yeah, the whole concept behind the book. So this is Volume 1, called To Whom It May Concern. So the whole concept was that there's actual journal entries in here from my
from the
trip.
actual trip.
Yeah, so there's my real day-to-days in there, and then when I came back from the trip, I wrote present-day reflections on things that were going on in my day-to-day, and I was extracting what life lessons were happening. And so the whole idea is that To Whom It May Concern means if I were to drop this book on the street by accident and a stranger were to pick it up, it would be written to them. So To Whom It May Concern is just like, whoever's going to pick this up is going to learn something that's going to impact them positively.
I like that. And did you put it as Volume 1, knowing that down the road you want to continue just to add Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4?
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't want to call it anything else. I like Moment because it doesn't corner me into a certain type of writing it needs to be. They're all just going to be moments of my life.
Yeah.
So I literally could write anything under that title, and it would just be like, this is my collection, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Volume 1 means there's going to be a Volume 2.
It's crazy. You literally didn't have any idea of becoming an author of a book, and now you have your own book that we're looking at in front of us today.
It's really crazy because I actually, like, growing up, I'd never liked writing, and I never was. Well, I probably didn't like it because I wasn't good at it. That's
you were too busy on the
reason.
numbers. You were too focused on the numbers.
And so it's like, I laugh about it now because it's like just kind of weird that I fell into this like path of writing and I loved it and I got good at it. And now I do it for a living full time. And it's just like kind of hysterical to me when I compare it to my high school days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you weren't doing this at all.
No way.
From the process of, writing the journals to kind of putting together this idea you want to put together a book to finally getting it published on Amazon, and I'm sure to even just get this printed in front of us today, there's a whole process. There's a bunch of hurdles of where do I get this produced, X, Y, and Z. But now it's available. What do you think was the biggest takeaway from this experience, from start to finish to now having like the product in front of you?
You can manifest anything. You can achieve anything. I mean, that's why we have dreams, and they're much more attainable than you think. If there's something that you really want to do and you put your mind to it through consistency and patience and your work ethic, it will happen. And I think this book is a testament to that, because I went to this trip not knowing I was even going to write at all. And I came back and now have a book on Amazon. So, I mean, there's a lot of obviously steps that went through that personal work for me to get to this place. And yeah, I just think anything you visualize can be real.
Yeah. I think once you do that one time in your life, when you can have that vision and then do it for yourself, you start to realize like literally anything in this world is possible.
Right.
The cliches are the truths. People, you hear it so many times, and people just tend to just, oh, I've heard it a million times, but it's literally like the truth of how to make these things happen. And when you manifest and when you have a vision for something and you just go all in on it, and you're the only one that really understands that vision, it's like you will find a way to bring this to life. And now you have a freaking book. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like,
right. Yeah.
You're an author. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. That's unbelievable.
So yeah, I mean, just wrapping that thought up is, for me, this is my validation. And whatever that may be for anyone in their creative work or whatever projects they're working on. Yeah. If you can make one thing, or if you can achieve that one thing, you can achieve that second thing, and you can achieve that third. Yeah. All it is putting in the work, being patient, because patience is everything. Good things don't happen overnight. Good things happen over a long period of time. Yeah. And it goes back to what we were talking about before the podcast, those day-to-day wins, those small wins. 100%. I think we were talking about that before the podcast. Yeah. Just those little wins every single day that over the compound effect, right, build up and become what this is today. That wouldn't have came to life if you didn't write every single day for the 3 months you're in Europe. Exactly. And branching off your day-to-day wins comment, I think there's so much importance in the small victories in life. So much importance, because so many of us are so focused on that end goal, whatever it may be. Your biggest goal, everyone's like, oh, I gotta get there, I'm not there yet, I gotta get there. But everyone forgets about the shit that happens in between, and that's like almost more important than achieving the goal, because without the stuff in between, you'll never get to the end. Yeah. And so if you can reward yourself for those small victories, I mean, for you, every single podcast is a small victory. Yeah. And if you can reward yourself along the way, you're going to be achieving little things along the way, which is going to motivate you more and more to keep going. Yeah. But if you have no sense of achievement between the start and the end of when you reach that big goal, it's really difficult to keep going. It is, because you're continuously chasing and you're not appreciating these little small victories every single day, which is honestly the best way. And it's crazy, because this is a daily basis that's running through my mind. It is continuously just a mental chatter of just 24 hours at a time. That's all I need to focus on. Like, of course, I need to schedule things out and try to plan accordingly for the future and line podcasts up or whatever it might be. But there's a time and place to think about that. And so maybe I spend an hour, 2 hours a day just trying to plan and schedule, and when can I get this guest in. But other than that, the other 22 hours of that day needs to just be living in the moment, just focusing on the 24 hours or literally just the task at hand. Especially when in the gym in the morning, when you're just starting up the day, like, it's great. It's the beginning for both of our days, but also it can be a point where I'm just running through all these thoughts of like, I need to do this, I need to do that. I'm like, man, I'm literally lifting these weights and I'm not even like, I'm lifting, but I'm not, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's just, I'm continuously always trying to get better. Just that present moment, 24 hours at a time. Even before we started the podcast, like I told you, I'm just big on present moment. I want this to be the best podcast for both of us. It's just making use of the present moment and just trying to give it everything that I got and not let my mind run a million other places, because this is it. This is the victory right now in the recording of this podcast. 100%. Talk to me about fitsmallbusinesses.com. It's a digital publication based in New York City. That's pretty much what you're doing full time. This is help funding the bills, paying everything that you're doing. How did that come about? Yeah, so I've been writing for Fit Small Business. Like you said, we're a digital publication out of New York City. We specialize in small business content. So we write for real business owners, just actionable stuff that they can put into play. And it's funny you asked the story, because I've only been there for about 4 to 5 months. So it's a recent thing I started. But the professional, if you want to call it professional writing journey, started about a year ago. I had been working at another mortgage company after the one we previously talked about. And that's when I was realizing that, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this isn't aligned with anything I talk about. Like, and I know for a fact that I can do whatever I want in this world. Why am I here? So I started looking for opportunities to write for money. And I was like, there's so many like freelance opportunities nowadays. Like, why am I not jumping on those? So I got linked up with another company, and we started writing just blogs for them, long form blogs. This was just part time. So after my mortgage work, I'd go home and write. And that just didn't click. That first opportunity didn't click, and they were like, this isn't going to work out. And I'm like, fuck, like, maybe this isn't for me. And I was like, I'll try it again. Like, let's keep going. And so I looked for another job, and I got linked up with these dudes. And we were, again, writing business content. And this was more like not so much freelance. They hired me on part-time. So it was a little more legit, and they had like more projects coming my way, whereas the first job was kind of like hit or miss. And it was going great. Everything was good. And I just wasn't really picking it up that quick. It was just weird. I don't know. It just wasn't really clicking again for me. But at the same time, I had gotten an interview at Fit Small Business for this full-time job because I knew I was looking for full-time work. I was kind of over the part-time. And something that a lot of people don't know is I pretty much got fired by that part-time job while I was in the interview process for this full-time writing job. And if you don't know how much that fucks up your head when you're trying to get a job, when someone says you're not good enough, it really fucks up your head. And so that like put me in a lot of worry, like, damn, like, do I belong here? Like, do I believe in my work? And so it took a lot of like personal work to forget about, not meeting the expectations of the two previous jobs, and knowing that it's right to keep following my heart and keep working towards this. Yeah. And I scored the job, and I made a promise to myself that, this would be my career, and I just grinded, and now I'm crushing it at this job, and we're pumping like 3.2 million page views a month. Wow. And so it's a pretty serious operation that we're working in. Yeah.
Well, I think kind of going back to what you had said about the manifestation, and maybe I skipped to, I should have went to Fit Small Business before we got into the book, but one thing you had said about this kind of just showed you like you can literally manifest your dreams. And so it's like, one thing I've realized too is that writing or podcasting, there's an audience for everything. So maybe clearly the first two opportunities, it just wasn't meant to be.
Right.
They didn't see what they wanted in you, or maybe you didn't see it just didn't work. Right. But it doesn't mean that just because two people close the door on you, doesn't mean there's a third door that you can't open. So it's like staying that consistency of, I know I can do this. I believe in myself. I know what I'm capable of. And then you land with Fit Small Business, and it seems like everything is going well. I mean,
oh, dude, it's phenomenal.
And you're focusing now on its credit cards and bank accounts. Is that kind of like your focus?
Yeah, I'm on the finance team. So it's like
finance major paid off,
I'm
baby.
telling you, man. I think
the numbers right back in.
There's a little theory I live by, and I try to share it when I can.
Please.
But I really believe that the most optimal zone of development is when you can cross a passion and your knowledge and intersect those two lines in the middle. And when you can intersect those two lines, that's the kind of job you need to chase. And so for me, the whole time I was doing all these writings and kind of like sourcing different companies and like, oh, this didn't work out here, this didn't work out there. There was a reason for that, because I really hadn't found where my passion of writing completely intersected with my knowledge of finance. And so with Fit Small Business, they intersect perfectly.
Yeah. And now, because this is clearly you are working remotely.
Correct.
Do you love that? Like, I mean, do they give you, we need X amount of articles a month, we need this done?
Yeah.
Here are the topics. How does that kind of work? Especially they're based in New York City. We're all the way out here in
New York. But we have a team of 60 remote writers. So being a remote writer for this company is pretty standard. Yeah. We'll put it that way. I love working remote. I've also worked from home at my previous job. So I've been working from home for just over a year. And it's difficult at first because there's a ton of distractions at home, but it's definitely doable if you really want to make it work, right?
Yeah.
So it works for me. Any writing job, but us specifically deadline based. So any way I can turn in my stuff by my deadlines, I can work at however I want.
So it just needs to get done.
It just has to get done. It has to get turned in by these days.
Yeah.
They don't care how you do it.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's quality, make sure it's right on track, and you turn it in and you're golden.
Yeah. That type of career can work for some people. It can probably hurt a lot of others. But somebody like yourself who seems pretty disciplined and knows probably the certain times of the day you write the best, it's golden because you can just operate and make sure that things are done, they're in on the right time, and there's nobody on over your shoulder, telling you.
You're not being micromanaged, which is really nice. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm disciplined, and something that helps me stay on track with that is time blocking. And for anyone that's looking for a way to optimize their day or optimize working from home, I really suggest time blocking. And I have alerts on my cell phone and my calendar from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Of every single minute time blocked into different windows. So for example, from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., that is my morning routine time. Gym, journal, meditation, or gym. And then you get home and I have another time block that's the journal meditation time block. And then another alert will pop up when it's time to start my first task. So instead of going into the whole time block, the whole idea is compartmentalizing your day to make sure that you're going to be work the most optimally and be the most successful you can in a certain window of time. So for me, I schedule from 5 to 5. Every minute is somehow scheduled and there's no dead time. And so that just makes me extremely, extremely productive, like crazy productive. And you get done at the end of the day and I'm like, damn, should I be done this early? Like, I feel like I should still be working. But I'm like, I actually did more than I was supposed to do today. Yeah. Because I've used every minute wisely.
Yeah. And it goes back to, focusing on those small wins every day. You're taking those things that you need to get done. And it helps so much because then you're able to just focus and go all in. I do the same thing with my day. I don't have alerts, but just knowing for the next hour, I need to prep for this podcast. And then at the 1 hour mark, I'm going to go eat. I'm going to come back. And then for the next hour, I need to do this. 100%. And then all of a sudden, my days, man, they just fly by.
Time goes so quick.
It's a good thing. Sometimes I'm nervous because I'm like, why is time going by so quickly? But then I'm like, it's such a blessing that I'm sure you could agree of just having a day-to-day like that where by the time you go to sleep at night, you feel good because you've accomplished so much, and it's not like a drag. It's like you're doing the things that you love, and it's priceless. That experience is priceless.
The amount of fulfillment you get after a day like that motivates you to get out of bed and do it again tomorrow.
Exactly.
And although this is a very structured lifestyle, it's nice because like I said, routine is important. And
definitely,
even though time blocking might make you think you're on a schedule of some sort, the schedule you've created is your formula, and it's the formula that makes you most successful. Yeah. And so that's why I believe time block 100% every day. It's freaking awesome. I mean, I don't do it on the weekends because that's free time and let's do whatever we want. But during the week, production is through the roof.
Yeah. Let's talk about the story on wheels. The van lifer.
Van life,
The man. Van life. This is the first ever out of 120 plus episodes we've ever talked about the van life. So I'm stoked about this part. You got the 2010 Ford Ecoline. Is that what it is?
Ford E150.
The Ford E150. So you pull the trigger on buying the van in 2018. You gut it down. You turn it into a livable space. As we talked about earlier, you had the father and the uncles that were already doing this. Was that the true inspiration for why you bought this one, or what inspired you to finally say, I need to get my own van?
I mean, it all stems back to that, and it all stems back to going camping and just always having that itch. Yeah. But in college, me and some homies, we always dreamed of having vans. We thought it was so sick, and we wanted to go be able to drive wherever we wanted at any moment's time. But before the van, I drove a Volvo wagon, and that's what I would use for my road trips. And I'd just sleep in the back of it, pack the car. The essentials were like firewood, friends, and beer. Like, let's hit the road, you know? And then that thing took a shit on me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I need to buy a new car. Seems like a pretty good opportunity to buy a van. And I was like kind of toying with the idea. I knew I wanted some kind of vehicle that was like good for the outdoors. So I was like going back between trucks and vans and trucks. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is the time to do it. And so, yeah, I searched on Craigslist all up and down California. Found this one up in NorCal. Actually had my dad pick it up for me. And then I drove up the weekend or two after and drove it back down. And when I got it, it's funny because not many people have seen the photos of it when I purchased it. It was a full-on work van. It had ladder racks on top, pipe boxes on top, shelving inside, metal doors between the driver and passenger seat. It was like, it looked horrendous.
That's got to be intimidating to go, I now need to turn this into a living space.
And then driving down from NorCal for 7 hours by yourself, you're questioning, like, do I even want this thing anymore? Like, is this, what am I doing? And, and, you know, it just goes back to, like, just, I knew that's what I wanted. I knew at the end of the day, I wanted to have a converted van that I could use for trips.
How was it a pain in the ass doing, like, converting it, or did you find love in that process?
Love, hate, maybe.
Yeah. Bang your thumb on a hammer or something here and there.
I didn't even own a power tool before I owned the van. So this was, not only was this challenging because building a van is challenging, but also learning woodworking skills for the first time.
Oh, you're a savage.
And doing it completely on my own with no help. Yeah, it was frustrating.
Paint a picture of what this van, for people that are listening on the audio, and maybe they haven't clicked into the Instagram or anything yet, paint a picture of what this van looks like.
Yes.
Now that it's not the
now
the
that's
work
nice
truck.
and pretty. It's your typical white work van, but on the inside you got put down shag carpet, about beige carpet, and then I slapped on wood paneling around the whole walls and ceiling, so it kind of feels like you're in a room. And then I've built a dinette table, which is kind of what you see in your typical RV, which is what turns into a bed. And then the benches, they are also gear compartments. And then I built cabinets and a countertop near the front with a pull-out stove so we can cook on the side of the van.
And then you have the shower part up top, right?
Yeah, so you can hook up I have the surf racks on top for boards. Also have a cargo box, which is just more storage. If we're going on a long trip, me and my girlfriend did 10 days last year to Utah and Arizona. So something like that, we're going to need a little more storage. Yeah. So I'll throw the box on top, put some soft stuff up there. And then I've made just a shower, an outdoor shower that you can hook onto if you need a shower. But yeah, it's pretty dialed.
Damn. And so because you work remotely, are you able to just travel around and just get your stuff done and still, like, if you wanted to go on a 10-day road trip right now, you could hypothetically do that as long as you have Wi-Fi?
100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But
so amazing.
But do I like to do that? No,
because you want to be out and enjoying yourself. You want.
Yeah, and I've created, just like you've created in here with all this.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
Space is important to me.
Yeah.
And although that space in my van is my space, and I built that space by myself, and I hold a very strong passion for my van. My workspace at home, I also built myself, and it's like, I know how well I work there, and I actually don't dread being home. I actually love being at my desk because of the things I put around it and the things that are on it, and like the ambiance I make for my work day. So for me, I appreciate working at my house.
Yeah, it's like an energy. When you sit down, 100%. You know exactly.
It's just you get locked in. Yeah, like I know when I sit in that chair at this time, my brain clicks and we start writing.
100%. I'm literally laughing because when I got back from the gym this morning, I knew I had about an hour, and I just sat down. I get my coffee. I know if I need a pen right here, I got this charger. I got the plans. It's the whole works. How did you land on the name The Story on Wheels?
I mean, it was just like trying to think of something that vibed with the whole idea. And like the idea was that I wanted to build something that would motivate me to go places, to take photos of, and then compile the photos into these long form stories. and I'm a passionate storyteller. That's like my bread and butter for my personal creative work. And so that was like, the whole thing was like, the whole project was just one big story to me, from purchasing the van to building it and now to having it and taking it to all these different locations. To me, it was just like I built it for the story. And that's what it does to this day. It really motivates me to get on the road and write more stories about different areas that I've been going to.
Yeah, I love how you call it trip reports.
Yeah.
And you recap with these road trips through your photography and words. How freeing is it when you go out on a trip knowing you don't have to worry about booking a hotel, you don't have to worry about booking Airbnb, you're just going with the flow and you have nothing but time to just figure it out?
It's nice, man. It's stress-free. Like you said, go with the flow, and that is very much like my personality, especially on those trips. It's just kind of like you see what gets tossed at you. You kind of see these new places. I don't always make concrete plans. So yeah, it's pretty free form, and there's not a lot of structure to it, which I think makes it more peaceful and more enjoyable at the end of the day.
How do you think owning the van has positively impacted your life?
I mean, without the van, I don't think I would have been inspired to write all these stories I've been writing. And I think a lot of these stories I'm writing are pushing me towards a direction of where I want to eventually be in my writing career.
So it's just helping you kind of
it's just like it's another thing in my life that is, it's like is pushing me towards my biggest goal.
Yeah.
And I think, I honestly don't know where I would be in my skill set of photography without the van, because it's what motivates me to go places. There's a lot that comes with it. And all the time, I mean, not all the time I realize it, but when I think about it, I don't know, it's been a blessing.
Yeah,
for sure.
If money were no issue, do you, kind of speaking more on the dream, the goal, do you just see yourself becoming more of just a full-time creative storyteller, just living your life, whether it's through the van, whether it's just pumping out content in West Hollywood? Do you kind of picture that as the big goal of just becoming Jordan Tarver, the storyteller? I said that last name right?
Yeah.
Tarver.
Tarver. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really, not as of now.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, my biggest goal, and it's something I think about every day, because I do believe you can achieve anything you put your mind to. Like writing stories for a company like National Geographic, like that's what I want to be one day. That's where I want to be. I don't want to be the center point of attention. I don't want to be Jordan Tarver, the storyteller. Like, I want to work on a team of creatives and artists and photographers and storytellers and compile these stories about crazy, crazy campaigns of things around our world that is going to touch like millions of people.
Yeah.
And so like when you talk big goals, like that's my goal.
Yeah. And you need a team of people for that.
Right. And I think I wouldn't be able to reach that goal if I never built the van, because if I never built the van, I never would have realized that was a goal, because until then I wasn't seeing the outdoors like I do now, and I wasn't writing these stories. So going back to your point, I mean, the van has brought me a lot.
Yeah. I have a listener by the name of Noah who's big with the podcast, and he's actually big with like the van life, but he's somebody that I believe is in college right now. He lives in Australia, and he wanted me to ask, one of the fan questions I had was, if you're somebody that's interested in the van life, you love this idea, the concept of it, but you're not somebody that can necessarily afford a van just yet in your life, being as he's in college still, is there anything you suggest that can get somebody close to that experience?
Just road tripping. I mean, pitching a tent is just as good as sleeping in the van. The fact of being in the outdoors, whether you have a rig or you don't, it's still the same return. You still appreciate what's around you the same. And that was like, for me, I started with a Volvo wagon, by no means a van. It was enough to sleep in it, but you couldn't, have cabinets or a table inside. It was just the fact that I knew I wanted to be outside, and whatever I had at the moment was going to be good enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take road trips, pitch a tent, go see new places every weekend.
Yeah.
Save up money until you can buy a van if you really want one.
I think it's just about making best of the use of the resources you've
Exactly.
got and not overthinking it, you know?
Just understand that what you have is enough to do
Yeah.
exactly what you want to do.
Hey, we ain't got a studio yet, but we're making it operate out of a bedroom studio, the Bed Rudio. So don't hold back from doing the thing you want to do. Sorry, these things get stuck with the water. The second and last fan question I had was from Gary G, and he wanted to know, what is the origin story of the Note Collective? It's an Instagram for people that are listening that might not know, and pretty much Jordan writes out or sketches different things on a piece of paper, uploads it onto the Note Collective Instagram. So what's the story behind that? What's the origin story?
So yeah, it's actually one of my latest writing projects. It's called Note Collective. Like you said, you can find it on Instagram.
Great handwriting, by the way.
Thank you.
Great handwriting.
It's funny because
mine would be chicken scratch. It would not be eligible.
I used to always think my handwriting sucked, so I started writing in all caps. That was my way to cope with it because it's way easier to read. And I saw my dad did it, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna do that. So thanks. But yeah, it's my newest project. It's literally my notes in this journal I have of just kind of like my thoughts. Like that's kind of that if you read that page, you're going to understand what goes on in my head during the day. And I wanted to start sharing these with people because I actually believe they're pretty impactful. And not only are they impactful, but they're impactful because they're real and other people are probably thinking the same things, except they're not realizing what they're not, listening to their own thoughts or anything like that. They're kind of just letting them pass. But I put these down on paper and I share them to let people know that like you're not alone. We're all human. We all go through the same shit. And at the end of the day, I probably experience a lot of the same things you do. And the bigger picture is the reason I wanted to share these kind of things is I want to encourage people to be positive and to be the best versions of themselves. And I think that's what a lot of these notes do.
Yeah.
Is I wanted to create a page where people can come curious and leave way more inspired and leave in a positive attitude.
It's a win-win because you're getting to put out these feelings or thoughts that are going through your head. So I would imagine it's almost like a meditation for you when you finally post that Instagram and you share it out there to the world. It feels good because you're now putting your thoughts and you're standing by it, but then also it's benefiting people that are coming across it that have been thinking about these thoughts all this time, and now they're seeing something in picture. Like you did a really good job from our conversation, and I think the end it was like this long path to greatness. Was it greatness?
It was a timeline to great things happening.
Yes,
and so yeah, it was the timeline had a starting point, and then it was just like a 3 or 5 line, like zigzag line. And then to the end where it said, good thing number 1.
Yeah.
And the whole idea about it is that good things don't happen overnight. And so I was trying to represent how long that timeline can be and how like curvy and confusing it can be sometimes. And that really that your treasure and personal legend of achieving what you want to achieve is just around the corner.
Yeah, we think sometimes it's just this straight shot.
Life is not linear, my friend. Life is not linear.
No, I know. You nailed it.
I wish it was.
You absolutely nailed it. I had also read on your website, and I'm curious, how does focusing on these 3 things help us become the best version of ourselves? Personal growth, willingness to change, and fluidity. How does that help us become the best version of ourselves?
Well, I mean, so for those that don't know, those 3 things are the aspects that make up my logo. And I really think willingness to change is the biggest one. It's just kind of being able to welcome in new life. I think a lot of people are scared of change. And I think if you're willing to change and to adapt to the situations of life and the things that are thrown at you, you're going to be forced to become a different person to overcome those challenges. And fluidity, I mean, I'm all about go with the flow. Don't live so tensely. Like, I think you can be much happier if you're just moving through life. And the last one is growth. And I mean, that just like, that says it in its own. If you can focus on growth and always work on yourself and realize that work starts with you first, I think you'll become the person that you're always meant to be.
Yeah. I think it is super important to invest a lot of time, energy, and money into yourself and trying to figure out. Because I think a lot of times people get so invested in other people's lives and trying to help them or benefit them. But it's like if you're not even happy with the person you are today, that's got to be the number one priority. And going off of that too, it's learning the importance of saying no to things and realizing you need that time to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, your no is just as powerful as your yes. And I think people need to understand that saying no is cool. Like, it's okay to say no. And say no when you don't feel like you should be doing something. But yeah, just know that when you say no, that's just as powerful as when you say yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really overlooked a lot of times in life. Because people are so quick. Everyone wants to please everyone because no one wants to make anyone mad. They want to come off as like, oh, people like me. Like, oh yeah. It's like at the end of the day, like, that's not true. Protect yourself. Everything starts within. You got to figure out your own shit first. So if something doesn't vibe, say no. And going back to your point about investing in yourself, I totally agree with that. 100%. I think 3 steps that I follow that I think are pretty beneficial is invest in yourself first, learn whatever it is you are investing in, whether it be, just invest in yourself, learn about yourself, and whatever you learn along that journey, kind of the things I learned in my book, positivity, kindness, gratitude, and then go and teach others. Don't mix those steps up.
Yeah.
Start with yourself, learn about it, and then spread the word.
Yeah. Because you have to figure it out for yourself. You have to go out there and put in the reps,
right,
and understand
personal
it before you can
man.
Really start preaching to other people what you've learned. If you had to recite one sentence to yourself every morning when you woke up, what would it be?
I would probably say something like, I don't know, go out and learn something new today. Challenge yourself to become a better person. I think that's what I would go with. I think it's really important to always challenge yourself. And there's always something to learn. But if you're not challenging yourself, you're kind of going to stay like stagnant. And so, like you say, man, push the envelope every day, because that's how you're really you're gonna move forward and grow personally, professionally, however.
Yeah,
is if you push the envelope.
I'm big on I look at life literally as this big punching bag of how many times are you willing to keep punching that bag over and over and over, and with that, it's just that consistency. It's just. When you have a vision for something, man, it's just unbelievable what can happen. Because we have it here today with your book. We have it here today with this podcast. It's unbelievable of how much joy that can bring you when you finally see your visions come to life. But it is that long journey, and that's why I love this podcast, because people will hear it. It's this long period of time where nobody understands or fully believes what you're trying to create. But it is a blessing and a beautiful feeling when you are the only person that really sees it, and you can actually show up and then do it and
right.
prove to people this is what I've been trying to create. But it's even on the drive to every morning to the gym, I replay. It's like I'm doing this every single day, and sometimes it can feel like, I don't want to call it boring because it's not, but that routine can sometimes feel
the same.
Yeah. But I tell myself, it's just, just do it. Keep going. Keep punching that bag. Keep staying consistent. But I think learning every single day is definitely
learn every day and challenge yourself.
Yeah.
I think simple but super powerful.
What do you do when you're feeling uninspired or not motivated, especially as somebody that writes so much? What can you do that inspires you? Because I know before you had said, podcasting or reading books, or what helps you get inspired?
Well, 2 things. I think the first thing is stepping away. I think a lot of the different creative people will talk about that, is like getting your mind off of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously a block, and to get over that block, just step away and remove yourself from that atmosphere for a bit until you feel like, clear-headed or whatever that may be. And another thing, like you were just saying, is I like looking at other people's work and being inspired by what they've achieved, because I've recently realized that everyone's human and we're the same, and we're the same as people that are super, super successful, right? And what that does for me is like, it just makes me realize that I can achieve the exact same things they can achieve. And that kind of gets me fired up. And something I talk about in some of my writings is jealousy versus inspiration. So jealousy is like, oh man, I wish I fucking had your life. Like, that's so cool. You get to do all that stuff. And in that same interaction, and if you change your perception to inspiration, then you say, wow, you're doing what you love. I know I can do the exact same thing. So it's altering that way of looking at someone's achievements as being jealous of what they have achieved.
Yeah.
And then letting it teach you that you have the exact same opportunity to achieve anything you want.
Yeah. All about that perspective change.
Yeah.
Once you flip that switch and you see from a different lens, you go, oh, I'm not mad that they got that look. I'm pumped because if they're getting it, I'm for sure going to get there. And I'm going to, when I get to step to the plate, I'm in this fucking grand slam out of the park. Now that's important.
It's all about that mindset shift.
100%. What do you think Jordan's purpose is?
Well, have you heard of Ben Greenfield? Mm-hmm. So he was on
fellow Joe Rogan podcast.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, Joe brought him on, and then he was also on the podcast called Impact Theory.
Yep. Tom Bialu.
Yes. And Ben was saying that he believes that everyone should have one sentence they can say their purpose in. And so ever since I've listened to that podcast, I started working on the one sentence that was my purpose, because I feel like if you can define it, that's great, and that's something you can really hone in on. And so I did a lot of brainstorming. I already kind of knew, I like positivity. I'm a writer, and I like to spread, I would like to impact people in a really good way. And I knew I was really liking the outdoors. So my purpose is I wake up to live a creative and adventurous life and to encourage people to be the best versions of themselves. And that is something that I fully stand by. And that's why I feel like
that one sentence summarizes everything that we've talked about in the last hour plus.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like I walk this earth. And
Wow.
that one sentence, for people that want to find that or want to work on finding that sentence should be the thing that gets you out of your bed in the morning, right? That should be like, okay, like this is why I wake up and this is why I do all this stuff, is because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. It adds fuel to the fire when you know what
100%.
that purpose is and you see that bigger picture of what you're working towards, even in the day-to-days when shit isn't going the way you want it to, or something just didn't play out the way you thought it would. It's like, I know exactly what I'm working towards.
Come back to your anchor. I mean, everyone needs an anchor. And when things get tough, that's like that one thing that reminds me, like, you're doing fine. Like, this is exactly, you're in line with your life. And if I'm maybe off track, it brings me back into that right alignment. Like, no, this is what you're here for.
Yeah.
And it helps you stay in your lane.
I love narrowing it down to one sentence too, because it's just making it simplicity to the point, not all this fuzz stuff, not a whole paragraph, right to the point, minimalist about it. Every word counts. Make use of every word. Before I get into closing questions, this is when I reverse the role. I allow the guests to ask me any one question. Could be about something we talked about today, something you want to know about me. 2 rules. 1, it can't be a question I already asked you today. And 2, it can't be directly about the podcast.
All right.
Any one question.
So the creative world, including podcasting, writing, photography, it's pretty nasty. There's a lot of judgment flying around when your work isn't what other people want to see. People are, especially now on their phones, they're quick to say a mean or rude comment and shoot you down and whatever your passion is. If something like that happens to you, what are some actionable steps that you take in your day to overcome like self-doubt or boost your confidence in your own work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think really kind of a couple things. One, the main thing is just I get inspired by other people's successes, but trying to just focus on my game. I had saw a tweet recently. I mean, I always have so many thoughts on my head. I saw a tweet recently. It's like, don't worry about how else somebody else is playing their game. Just focus on playing your game. So even as I said to you before, I understand that what I'm creating is not for everybody. That's okay. If somebody wants to try to shoot me down and be negative about something, I don't take it personal. I actually feel bad for this person, because the fact that you are taking time out of your day to spend energy in taking my content, processing in your brain,
right,
what do I think about this content, and then spitting out some bullshit ass negative thing, I feel bad because there's something wrong with your life. You have so much time that you can focus and try to shut me down, that I think that's how anybody should look at negative feedback. Now, constructive criticism is one
that's
thing.
Different. That's
different. Great. That's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But from the people that are just trying to knock you down and trying to shoot you down because you are trying to do something bigger than yourself, you literally have to like let that fire you up and understand that it's just they have a bigger problem. It's a personal issue. But self-doubt, I think is a forever game. I think I've been surprised by podcasts that I've listened to of people that inspire me. And that's why I love podcasts, because you really get to tap into these conversations and you get to hear people authentically talk about certain subjects. And I've seen and heard from people that I was amazed by, just like, damn, they don't believe in themselves sometimes. And I think to defeat self-doubt is to keep showing up, keep punching the bag, like I was just saying, to push through the tough times, because there are plenty of times when I don't feel the confidence. I don't know if I'm capable of reaching that high potential, but it's like I have one shoulder with the self-doubt, and then I have one that's like this little angel with a beard that's like, Bobbbaaaay, you got this. And I always make sure to listen to the other one, that one, because it's a good thing to have that self-doubt, because I think it's showing you that you care. You care enough that you don't want to look bad. Right. You don't want to fail. You don't want to look like an idiot. Like, I think that is good, because it's your own personal motivation to keep you going, to keep you showing up. So I guess just to summarize all of that, it's just one, with the content world that we live in nowadays, it can be very easy to not want to do something because you see how successful other people are. And two things off of that. One, don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20. I saw that in a quote and a tweet recently, and I love that. It's truthful. Like, there's Joe Rogan. He's at 1,200 plus podcasts. Why am I going to waste my time trying to compare when I'm at 120? Like, I'm happy with 120, but I can't compare myself to that. And then shout out to Jesse Korn. He was a recent podcast guest I had. And the title of that podcast was "There's Enough Room for Everyone to Win." There's plenty of room out here for authors, plenty of room for podcasts. There's a market for everything, and there's enough room for everyone to win. So consistency, showing up, believing in myself, punching that bag, and just keep going. That's how I defeat it all. Because it's a day-to-day battle. And
man. I mean, I'm in that boat too. I mean, exactly. It's human.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, and if anyone's listening thinking that they're going through these self-doubts and it's weird that they're doing it, it's like we all do it. It's like normal. Like, it's okay. Like,
yeah.
But it's that battle that you're talking about that's really important.
That's that's what's going to make or break somebody.
Exactly.
That's how this book came here today. That's why I'm at 124. You just have to keep going. You just have to believe in it. Eyes on the prize. Keep that vision straight. Keep the blinders on. And just fucking go all in on whatever it is you want to do. And some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. But with time, the right people are going to find whatever you're trying to create. That's a great question. Closing questions. One, where can people find you? We got a lot. Where can people find you? Where can they find the book? Where can they find the van life? And where can they find the No Collective? Social medias, plug it up.
Yeah, so my main Instagram is just at Jordan Tarver. You can find actually both of my other projects, the van and the Note Collective, in my bio. But they're also called the Story on Wheels for the van, and then the Note Collective for my latest project.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book is on Amazon. If you just search Jordan Tarver Moment, it'll pop right up.
We'll have it all linked up in the bio. People will be able to click into it and make sure you go and drop a bunch of bearded man emojis on Jordan's Instagram or any of his Instagrams, because he'll know you're coming from podcast.
I'm watching.
And he's a fellow bearded man, so he'll appreciate it. Before I ask the last question, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate. I mean, we just spoke on Saturday, and it's Thursday, and we're in the studio.
Yeah.
So that's pretty legit.
Quick turnaround.
Quick stuff. So yeah, I appreciate you for having me in.
I love the story. I appreciate you supporting the content of what I've been creating. And this has been incredible. There's a lot of topics that I've never covered before.
Yeah, it's been fun.
But two, just like coming from the fact you graduated in 2016, I graduated in 2016. I know how much I've evolved and changed in 2.5 years, and hearing today firsthand your story, it's just awesome to see. I feel like I'm sitting across from another version of myself. Right. Got the beard, got the slicked hair, very similar. Of just this journey of trying to figure out ourselves. And even post-graduation of college, I went that 2 or 3 months, that summer was when I started to put this together. So relatable. I have so much, I could see just by doing the research and really looking to your content, I was appreciative of the energy you were putting out into the world. But getting to hear it today and document and get this as part of the podcast that I'm sure so many of the listeners are going to love. This was an incredible podcast.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
Last question for you. For somebody that's listening, hasn't found that passion, hasn't found the purpose just yet, what's the best 2 to 3 pieces of advice you'd give to them?
Be curious all the time. I really believe that the curiosity of experience can lead to self-realization. And not only that, the curiosity, but the quality of time spent in each of those experiences, because often we find what we need where we don't want to look. But with that, man, just be curious.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because through that curiosity, you start to figure out a lot of different things about yourself.
And find things that you hate and find things that you love. And it's good to find things that you hate, because then you know that's not where you want to spend your time. That's not where you invest your time. So I think both things are important, and finding those both things come from being curious.
My fellow bearded brother, Jordan Tarver. Thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Thanks, brother.
It was a pleasure.
It.
We'll catch you guys next time.
See ya!